February 2nd. Tonight is the night of the full moon, and once again we are traveling through a throbbing meadow of seaweed, this time at a good speed with gentle winds pushing us along. Earlier, I was not able to sleep for the eerie noise the seaweed brings, the soft, enchanted swish against the hull, like a mother's hand soothing a baby's head. So I went above and found the captain alone on the deck, lit by the moon. His log entries these last days are concerned with the miles we make and the direction we sail, constantly plotting and striving to find his way back to Spain. I was uncertain at first what to do, but finally I came up beside him. I don't think he even looked to see who I was when he pointed off towards the northeast and said, "I believe there are islands off in that quarter. When we come back around on our second voyage, I will make certain we see them." A second voyage? Suddenly, the wind was too cold for me, the moon too bright. Below, I wrapped myself tight in my blanket and struggled to write. The inkhorn in one hand, the quill in the other, I tried to imagine myself growing to manhood on ships such as this, and I cannot. Oh, I cannot. February 7th. For the last few days, we have been sailing beneath an overcast sky at a tremendous speed, the fastest I've ever gone in my life. It nearly takes my breath away. It's growing colder, and we can no longer walk on deck without holding on. Then, yesterday, with much sadness for a few on board, myself not included, 2 of the parrots blew away. Vaya and Dios. There is so much heated discussion lately among the pilots about where we are exactly. Vincent Yanez Pinzon says Madeira is due east. Per Alonso Nino insists we will miss Madeira by 38 miles. And Bartolome Rodane says Porto Santo is due east. The captain, probably wiser, will commit himself only to saying we are 47 leagues south of the parallel of Flores. What a shame the seas are too high for us to draw close to the Pinta. Then we can ask them what they think and have a few more expert opinions on where we are. "Where are we?" they all ask. "We are right here," the ship's boy answers, and I am probably the only one who is right. February 13th. I try to write, but it is difficult. I cannot eat. I cannot bear to stand. I did not think the sea could turn on us this way. I had grown used to her gentle swells and even her strong waves and winds, but this tempest is unbearable. When I turned the sand glass tonight and feebly called out the time into the roaring storm, heavy waves of green sea and foam crashed through the rudder port, nearly drowning the helmsman and myself. Everything that was not tied down has washed overboard. Even things that were tied down have been ripped from our decks. Below, our possessions are strewn about, flying like mad birds each time we pitch and crash through this storm. The natives huddle together in terror. I cannot bear to look at their dark eyes grown huge and even more distressful, if such a thing is possible. The captain ordered bare masts most of the night, and then at sunrise put up a little sail to keep us steady. Lightning flashes, and the Nina labors and shudders without ceasing. The seas show no order. Huge waves come at us from opposite directions, crossing each other, breaking over our heads, and crashing onto our dock. All day we are pounded and pounded. Each time a wave breaks over us, I think, "We survived that one. Maybe it was the last." But there is no end to this. The captain has abandoned course. The only direction he can take us is to stay out from beneath the Goliath waves to keep us from sinking. All night, drenched and staggering, we try to keep our light burning so the Pinta can keep us in sight. For a while, her light flickers back, but somewhere in the night we lose her. The Pinta is gone. February 14th. Is it even possible that things have grown worse? Nothing less than a miracle from heaven can save us now. This morning, shortly after sunrise, below decks in the dark green air of the storm, the captain placed in a seaman's cap as many chickpeas as men in the crew. One chickpea was cut with a cross, and whoever picked that one would perform a pilgrimage once we are safely on land. A pilgrimage of gratitude to Santa Maria de Guadalupe in the mountains of Extremadura. The captain himself pulled the cross on the very first draw. He swore to carry a candle weighing 5 pounds and to light it at the altar. Still, the ocean raged. By midday, the peas were drawn again. This time, it is a pilgrimage to the shrine of the Santa Maria de Loretta in Icona. When Pedro de Villa pulls the crossed chickpea, Columbus agreed to pay his expenses. Yet even as he spoke, a wall of water spilled down the hatchway. The ocean mocks us. Just now, a third lottery was drawn. To hold a vigil all night and have a mass said at the church of the Santa Clara de Mogro near my home. I hoped to get this one, but the captain picked the cross once again. Nothing matters any longer. Terrified, we have all promised to go in procession to the first shrine of the Virgin Mary, if only we may live to see another shrine. God has forgotten us. We are so engulfed by this tempest, even he must be certain we are lost. Later, same day. I have been hiding in the captain's cabin, trembling from cold and fear. I am only a ship's boy. Everything is drenched with salt water except this journal and the captain's log, which we keep wrapped together on a shuttered shelf. It is growing dark again, and the captain's lantern flickers and sways from the ceiling as he writes. He tells me we are sure to go down. The Nina will not make it, and he is furious that the Pinta may return and get the credit. That Martin Alonso will be the returning hero and claim all the rewards for himself. My sons will be left orphaned and penniless, he says, unless I can get a message to the king. So he writes his final proclamation, quickly giving accounts of the voyage and his discovery. He tells me, we will wrap my proclamation in a waxed cloth, seal it in a wooden barrel, and cast it into the sea. If we don't return, may the truth return without us. And then he turned to me and offered to include my letters in the barrel. I hold you in my hands. You are still dry. So before you are sodden and your ink smudged, and before I changed my mind, I will hand you over to my captain. Go with God. Tell God where I am. And if you should ever reach my home, tell Mother I died with her love in my heart, and that she should pray for my foolish soul. Go with God, and please tell him where I am. Here is the journal of young Pedro de Salcedo ends. We do know from historians and scholars that despite their fears, the Nina and the Pinta did find their way through the more storms, squalls, and rolling seas, and were reunited in the harbor of Palos, from which they had departed 7.5 months before. And from Francisco de Hulava, who returned from the New World with his crew of the Pinta, and with who his earnings bought a fishing boat, we hear that the last time Pedro de Cilantro was seen, he was heading up into the hills towards his mother's house. His back was to the great ocean sea, and the ground was firm beneath his feet. Francisco said that Pedro never even looked back at the blue horizon that beckons young men to nautical adventures, and that no one really expected that Pedro de Cilantro would ever go to sea again. The end.